Okay, so okay, okay, everyone. So yeah, 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 this is a new episode of Enslavement Watch because the title is not by accident because I believe that we are being enslaved. So if you pay any attention to the news, not to the serial news, not to the lies being broadcast by mainstream media, you will see that basically you have what you have. If you look at Europe, if you look at North America, you have basically up to 60-70% of the population now living in abject poverty. And then there's also a group of people that are doing rather well out of this situation. But as I said, you may find up to 60-70% of the population in living in abject poverty, starting to 70, moving all our manufacturing job, or most of our manufacturing jobs to Southeast Asia. They've been cutting everything. They've been cutting jobs. They've been cutting wages. They've been cutting welfare benefits. They've been destroying public services. Every day. And now that is in the last few years, also we have this very aggressive, this very aggressive movement, drive to take away, to destroy all our civil liberties. Privacy is completely gone. Freedom of speech is on its way out. Basically, some of the stuff we have been surrendering, sharing on the internet, all all this terabyte of information on social network, on the internet, and now just or simply on a whim they can just condemn you to some kind of digital death. But it's not just that, because increasingly, and it's not only that now completely at the drop of a hat, you find your account gone, your social network accounts gone, no warning, no recourse, no way of appealing, or so yeah. But this you will see in the future how this information we have been sharing, all this terabyte of data we get. When in the future we'll see the effect of all this data, when in the future we'll have to go looking for a job, or looking for some accommodation, or maybe just getting some some travel visa, travel to a foreign country. So it's so the people yeah, we moved from a situation where everything was falling apart, and the cutting jobs, cutting wages, cutting welfare, cutting public services, and everyone being pushed into debt and poverty. But at least people for a few years, they were able to vent their frustration on social media, right? And now we moved from a situation, even that is being taken away completely, and now instead of having some way of maybe some way of expressing our frustration, or some way, or even finding a way of getting together, organizing events, organizing a meeting about what is going on, organizing protests about what is going on. Far from it, we are in a situation where we need to start worrying about the effect of all this shared data. Set there in some servers, lodged there in some servers. The effect that all this is going to have on in the future, when we are going to look for a job, or when we are going to look for a new accommodation, when we try to get a travel visa to a foreign country. So that's the situation. So I'm not calling it, I call it enslavement watch, or enslavement news, because I believe we're all being enslaved, apart from a small minority of people which are doing rather well out of this situation. We are all being enslaved. So And then so the fate of ordinary people is pretty grim. But then target individuals is a completely different situation. Is horrific. It's just torture, 24/7 torture. If you have the misfortune of becoming so there's still quite a distinction. If you're an ordinary person, you are getting progressively enslaved, and you will see that you need two jobs to survive. You will see that a score of people being put on universal credit, being unable to hold on to their accommodation, an increasing number of homelessness. People with terminal cancer being found fit to work, and blind people being found fit to work and sent to work, and then people die. People either commit suicide or just they die because they can no longer be bothered to remain alive or to fight on or something. So we are all being enslaved, and but then target individual is not just being a slave. Target individual, if you're a target individual, you will note that it's not just being a slave. It's just 24/7 torture. Once they decide to induce you into this kind of program, is you can forget about the future. You can forget about your plans for the future. You can forget about having a normal life. It's just 24/7 torture. Unfortunately, if it doesn't happen to you, it's very difficult to understand what is going on. But basically, what is going on? They're using us as guinea pig because they, on top of all the stuff they're already doing to ordinary people, like cutting their job, cutting their wages, cutting their welfare, cutting public services, so people die, like in Grenfell, because basically they make really brutal cuts to the fire services. I don't know how many fire stations they've been closing the last few years. I heard that the figure is probably around 40. So then now that is revolting, despicable government, these criminals in the government. They try to blame the firefighter for Grenfell. So we are all being a slave. We are being a slave. We target individual. We are with the canary in the mine. It's the next after cutting people jobs and wages and welfare and public services, and now we're completely losing any kind of civil liberties, any kind of rule of being dealt with according to the rule of law. Is that might is right, and then freedom of speech is just on its way out. It's becoming So basically. After doing all this to ordinary people, I believe there is possibly up to 60-70% of people in North America and in Europe being pushed into debt, abject poverty, homelessness, you name it. Now we are the canaries in the mine, the target individual. We are the guinea pig when they try to experiment. The experiment, the next level of abuse they want to inflict on the entire population. Now they're experimenting it on us, but the plan is if they think they in any way can be able to get away with it, the plan is to start rolling out on some political activists, that on all political activists, all whistleblower, and then everyone was, you cross the wrong person, someone powerful is happened to you, you have been in an abusive relationship with some of these people which you're involved with this kind of program is happening to you. So it's going to be increasing, affecting an increased number of people. Unfortunately, ordinary people are kind of frustrated, frustrated for basically being a slave, because it's not no other way of describing it. If people wake up and look what is really happening and don't start being mesmerized by the BS of mainstream media, we're all being a slave, everyone. So that they think it's a good idea to vent their frustration on target individual in this kind of harassment program in the community. But you think it's a good idea because you have all this frustration. Take it out on a local target individual. But the thing they're doing to us today, they will do them to you, your children, your grandchildren tomorrow. So if you think it's a good idea to help them to develop this kind of program, well, time will tell, and you will see for yourself in the future what is going to happen. So that's so much for enslavement and targeting. I was a speaker corner this afternoon for a little while. Unfortunately, I get there quite late. It was already quite late, so but it was not terribly good because I usually, I do rather well when I go there early, and there is plenty of daylight. If I go there, if I'm not able to go there reasonably early, I get there, which is a bit late, and is a bit of a disaster really. But anyway, I create a video which I don't think is a particularly good video. I'm working on it. I'm working on it. So with this kind of protest and visual, I moved from a situation where I was trying to basically record the whole thing on a video camera, uh, and then record the whole thing on a video camera, then maybe edit and share it later. Now what I'm trying to do now, and try to find a way of to broadcast the whole thing live, so that my interaction with people, and unfortunately today one was not very good one because it was already a bit dark and things. So it's a little work in progress. It's a bit of work in progress. And moving on to let's see if I moving on to the next subject, which I want to talk about, which is next events. Next events. If see all the can. Let's see. Trying to. Oops. Next events. See if I can do something there. So we like to. The next event is on Wednesday. I'm trying to. Yeah, getting it. I'm trying to. If I can see. If I can show you. See if I can show you the next event. So Friday there is the usual. Let's see if I can find it. There is the usual. Yeah, I mean it's a bit problem with my browser really, but it seems a way to freeze a bit when I try to show some information, but yeah, that's something I would like to show, which I think was quite. Someone made these. Someone made these. Someone made these. So look what's going on there. Yeah. So try to access some information there, but yeah, I like to share my screen and show you stuff, but I think that I still get a few teething problems there. So look what's going on there. Yes, I need to probably start something there. Yeah, right. So I would like to show you the next event, which next event. So I think it's not. There's a bit of malfunctioning here going on, and but which is not good because which is not good. So look. Which is not good. Yeah. Okay. Let's see if I can. Otherwise, I will have to be. Yeah, I mean, it's a problem. Yeah, I mean, oh God, what's going on there? Oh gee. Yeah. Yes, I seem to have a few problems with trying to. Yeah, I think I try to share information, but it's a bit diabolical because it's a bit diabolical. It's not responding on this stuff, so it's not responding. It should be responding, but it's not. So yes, so it's a bit. I don't know what is going on there. Yes, so that's very unfortunate. So I would like to share some information with you about different things, but usually when I try to share different screens and things, it's just not working. Fortunately, yeah. So it's just not working. It's just not working. Just not working. So yeah, which is very disappointing. Which is very disappointing. Anyway, yeah, as per usual, you try to yeah, when it's, when you try to use your digital equipment to do something. So usually that's the time when it starts to malfunction, everything starts to malfunction. So unfortunately, I will have to just talk without being able to show you all the things I would like to show you. That's which. So anyway, so the next video on Wednesday is going to be between 2 o'clock and 3:30. So not too long, not too heavy. And last Wednesday we had there was Andrew with me, and for a little while we had some students from UCL working on a project. So we got to talk a bit about targeting and what is going on with targeting, and I don't know if I'm not even sure if they're supposed to get back to me with the final product, with a link to the final product and the interview. I don't even sure they're going to get back to me. But anyway, I try to be very rational. So I mean, like, in describing targeting, I'm not even entirely sure like they're going to get back to me. But you have to try whatever you can to raise awareness about targeting. It's the only way to go, I guess. And so yeah, so basically the next one is going to be Wednesday, again, close to Prime Minister question time, between 2:30. Not too long, not too heavy, and it would be nice to get a bit of support and get the support. I'm really trying to see if I can make a last effort to see if I can show you if I can show you if I can show you no, that's not the right one, but that's not the right one. Yeah, I mean it's definitely. I'm trying to do some screen sharing, but it's not working very well. Yeah, I'm trying to do some screen sharing, but doesn't seem to be working. Doesn't seem to be working very well. No. So. See if I can. Right. Where is it? Okay. So. So this is the event on Wednesday, and there seem to be there seem to be a few people, you know, there's some interest. Well, some of the some of the real pressing interest, unfortunately, is not even in London. So, but I hope that I hope that if people intend, I will make maybe a few telephone calls, and I'm sure there are going to be a few people there. Will be nice to get a bit more support, I suppose, and because I think the way I look at it is I think it's like a rallying point for targeted individuals in London and even all over the country, because someone may at some point decide maybe I don't know, every few months to join us or to so it's a point. It's a way for people to get together face to face, rather than either being completely atomized or just to connect purely on the internet, which is has a lot of limitations, particularly now that any kind of freedom of speech is going to be taken away from us. So. Yeah, so then let's see if I'm a bit struggling a bit with the, okay. Then there's another event, let's see if it's not getting any interest. Initially, it didn't get a lot of interest actually. So yeah, it's very, 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 very even that, which I'm quite surprised, because in the past, this kind of events, did manage to get a bit of attention. But anyway, it has been up and running for a couple of weeks now. As soon as I heard that the TI in the US, they were planning to have a rally by the Capitol in Sacramento, California, on April 26th. So I thought, well, it's let's have something of our own in London, and see if we can in any way connect. And in front of BBC Broadcasting House on the same day, which is, I think, let me see, it's not even a particularly good screen that you can't see very much, but yeah. So I'm surprised how freedom there seems to be for this event, because it's like, they give us the possibility to do things together, somewhat together with the people in Sacramento, and also people seem to think that there is going to be quite a number of people in Sacramento on April 26th. So I mean, I'm quite surprised that these seem to. Initially, Facebook prevented me from inviting anyone to this event, and I went back, and then after a while I was able to invite a few people now. So, well, there is still, a couple of months, so let's see how things goes, so when it comes to events. And so yeah, let's have a look. So yeah, so basically, it's just, unfortunately, we have a situation of cognitive, what people call cognitive dissonance, whereby people have all kinds of strange beliefs which are somewhat contradictory, disconnected. Most of the general public, they're completely brainwashed, to put it bluntly, and what also I call cognitive schizophrenia, whereby people, like a chameleon, they adapt the system of belief that is suitable for different situations. So maybe they when they work, they believe certain things. When they're with their family or with their friends, they believe different things. So it's a completely. So I mean, not to be discouraged if people, because most people don't want to know about targeting, because most people are there, they don't even know where their proverbial is most of the time, with all the commercial and the misinformation, disinformation, lies, propaganda. They're being bombarded 24/7 by their mobile phone, by their telly, by their, so I mean, that's the way it is. It's mainly, most people are totally brainwashed with a lot of garbage, and so it's hardly surprising, they don't want to know about targeting. They may find out about targeting the hard way in the future. If the people running this program can up their own way, they may end up later on down, to find out about targeting the hard way. So that they then will know about targeting. So far, they don't want to know. It's crazy. They think it's a good idea to take part in this program of harassment because we target individuals. Obviously, we are really evil and bad and dangerous. Even though, most people in our network, they never hurt anyone in their entire life. They never been indicted or convicted of any crime. Most people have never been arrested. So, but we are evil, bad and dangerous. So, okay. So that's the way it is. And if you look at what's happening, if you recently I came across this book by an American journalist called Yasha Levin called Surveillance Valley, which is obviously referring to Silicon Valley. And then it is actually three things I came across recently, which is in a way in my mind they're all interconnected because it's been allow me enable me to connect a lot of dots actually. So that's the first thing. The second thing, I spent 4 hours watching this the 4 parts in this documentary in 4 parts made by Al Jazeera called The Lobby, about the IPAC in the activities, the activities of IPAC in the US, the Israeli lobby in the US. And so I don't have a lot of respect for Al Jazeera because basically Al Jazeera is owned and controlled by the Emir of Qatar. So many years ago I started to I used to watch it. I used to watch them a bit. Many years ago I kind of became really skeptical because particularly when they become really very important in what they did in Libya. I mean, for regime change in Libya, they were very central in destroying Libya basically and try to destroy Syria. So they were really, really central in this kind of project. So at this point, obviously, but notwithstanding that, I think this documentary, documentary they made on the IPAC lobby in the US is fantastic. They got someone undercover joining all these different. It's a mind-blowing number of different organizations working with IPAC, sub-organization groups, and someone engaged in blackmail, someone engaged in character assassination. Is kind of mind-blowing. It's off the stand. Most of the stuff has been actually recorded because the guy who went undercover was recording all this meeting with the different officials and stuff. So that was quite mind-blowing. And the third thing I came across, it was this 3-part, 3 articles. It's a trilogy of articles made by Max Rubinstein, 2 American journalists. One is Max Rubinstein, which is doing fantastic. Max Blumenthal, and the other journalist called Rubinstein. I don't know. I'm of eBay and PayPal, and now he's a millionaire. I mean, it's a huge amount of money. Basically, what he does is very much at the center. It's not he's out there enjoying his money or something. It's very much at the center. It's a kind of spider web of different hundreds of different organizations, research groups, think tanks, media outfits. And literally hundreds is at the center of this kind of spider web of, talk about Rupert Murdoch, is at the center of this kind of spider web which of organization, groups and think tanks and political groups and astroturf organization, which is basically the intent of spy on people as much as possible, influencing political events, orchestrating regime change, controlling control really what the brainwashing entire population, entire nation, and controlling in influencing a single individual. So it's kind of mind blowing. I expect that Rupert Murdoch is at the center of a similar spider web, and if you look at the Jeff Bezos, is at the center of a similar spider web, and with Joe Smith, with Google Alphabet at the center of the similar spider web of the different organization group, just aim at collecting people as much information as possible on everyone, and also influencing the way people think about global events, influencing government, influencing powerful organization, fostering regime change. So it's not so bad. So it is basically I would say it is three media sources, which is Yasha Levin Surveillance Valley, then Al Jazeera Telobi documentary, and this trilogy of articles made by Max Blumenthal and his associate. I can't remember his first name. I'm sorry, Rubinstein, but I can't remember the first name. So in a way, they almost complement each other in helping you to connect a lot of the nets in the way of this kind of spider web they're creating around everybody. To enslave everybody. It's just, you see different aspects of this kind of spider web. They building around every one of us to take away, to enslave us, to make us live in poverty, to brainwash us, to make us believe all kinds of nonsense, and to basically to enslave us economically, politically, psychologically, emotionally, in any possible way. So that's very interesting. One of the main, if you look at the Yasha Levin Surveillance Valley, basically what he does, he tried to question this image we have of the internet, basically, because most people, I'm sure they know that the internet was born out of ARPANET. ARPANET was a military project, was a Pentagon project, was a DARPA project, the Defense Advanced Research Project, blah 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 blah. So I'm sure most people know that the internet was born out of what was actually a defense project, out of the Pentagon, out of the U.S. Navy, out of DARPA, but the people probably think, after a while, the internet it's become something completely different. It may be a battlefield now between forces which they try to emancipate humanity, forces which now they're trying to enslave humanity, but it becomes something completely different. And what this Yasha Levin does, he actually show that he go into details to show people how the internet started in a very sinister way. The origin of the internet is quite sinister, and in a way, a certain amount of they remain true to this rather sinister nature to this day. So it try to, for instance. It would appear that in the early day of ARPANET, when I think we were talking about 1969, it was it was mainly born out of the Harvard and the MIT. It would appear that the student there was a very strong, very active student movement at the time, so 1969. They just when they were starting to at the first day of the origin, the early day of ARPANET. They managed to get hold of this 100 pages document, which a 100 pages document which show actually how one of the main purposes of ARPANET. Well, we know about ARPANET. We know that the official the narratives that is in the case of a nuclear war, for instance, because of the uh, nature of this kind of network, which can they're not centralized. The internet is not a centralized network, but it's a kind of so basically, in the event of a nuclear war, the idea is that the internet was something which would have allowed to maintain, being not entirely centralized in its nature, it would have allowed even certain area of, say, the United States were completely destroyed by a nuclear attack. It would have allowed other to maintain a form of communication in different parts of the United States because of the decentralized nature of the network. So that was the original narrative about the creation of the internet. But these students, they came came across this 100-page document showing actually what there was another purpose for the internet, and that was to actually to collect and share information on political movement, just at the same time when we're telling people, oh, it is just because in the the purpose of the internet is in the event of a nuclear war or some kind of catastrophe to maintain certain some communication between between different agency and government agency and etc. But at the same time, they were also what did you tell people? What these students they found out by coming across this document, that actually one of the other purpose at the same time it was to collect information about. It was early days because it was the ARPANET. It was not yet the internet. So I mean, it was very technologically speaking, it was very early days. So there was a lot of technological limitation there, but the main purpose, one of the main purposes also was to keep track of all to use this new ARPANET to keep track of, to gather information on all the protesters, the student movement, all the different kind of movement which at the time they were growing everywhere in the United States, and to collect information on the individual protester, collect information on the different group, collect information on the different political organization. It tried to create. It was very much early days, as I said, because they probably didn't have the technology to. But the aim, even at this early stage, the aim was to create some kind of radar, a social radar, whereby they could be. That's something which at the time there was just an aspiration, because the technology was in its infancy. The technology was not up to what would have been required to do such a thing. But even then, 1969, the aim was to create some kind of social radar whereby they could identify political activists, protest, political groups, and also in a way, that was back then it was a bit of only an aspiration. They could flag behaviors and possible threats for the state and the forming of movement, the organizing of protest, the early flagging. So yeah, it was very much an aspiration then, but that is what probably is in a very advanced stage at the moment. That's in a very advanced stage at the moment. So basically, and then you have to wonder about so they probably now they have this kind of social radar system in place, whereby I think they're still struggling. Possibly with the hardware not being up to scratch yet to do this in a very smooth, and they're struggling because the software also is probably not up to scratch. They're struggling because they're still, they still try to deal with how to process this huge amount of information. They're probably getting there. They're getting closer in finding way of process. Told this enormous amount of information they have on every one of us, but it's probably still there are a lot of glitches, but they're moving in quite rapidly in this direction to have this kind of social radar. I don't mean in the United States or in Europe. I mean social radar from all over the world. And then when can easily early flag dissenting voices, people turning into protest, the forming of groups and movement, the organizing of protest. I think now that is very much in place. Which brings us to another subject. The which come to the Western intelligence community doesn't seem, even though this kind of soft police state is in the last few years being created on the on the assumption that it was to fight terrorism. That is a total fallacy, because we have there's so much damning evidence of the the incestuous relationship between Western intelligence and the sponsoring of terrorism. We have so much evidence. So I mean, obviously, they don't seem to, in practical terms, when you go looking, when you look at all the various terrorist incidents, they may be genuine or they may be false flag, but they seem to have very little interest in actual. They have all these apparatus to collect people data in terrorism. And they seem to be a lot more interested in spying on the domestic population, and then you have, so that's the main, by far, the main focus they seem to be having is spying on the domestic population, or maybe spying on political activists and political entities all over the world, rather than fighting terrorism. We also heard voices in, for instance, coming out of the U.S. military, etc., that they say, like, when they ask us to do a military operation, or the intelligence usage is quite garbage. So in a way, they seem to they create this kind of social radar, this social enormous apparatus. Collecting huge amount of information from credit card, debit card, shops, what you buy in shops, what you do at home, what is the Amazon thing, which Samsung television, Amazon devices, Google devices that they're listening to you all the time. I believe your smartphone is also listening to you all the time. So I mean, so they have all these huge, colossal amounts of information, and but they're not really interested in fighting terrorism. In fact, there is a long history of the Western government, the Western intelligence, having a very incestuous relationship with terrorism. Try to use it as a political tool. Yeah, so they don't seem that interested in fighting terrorism, in spite of what they are saying. Oh, we're all the time, creating a better relationship with other intelligence services to protect you. It's all nonsense. So they don't seem really interested in fighting terrorism. If anything, they seem more interested in sponsoring terrorism as a political tool of influence. They don't seem very much interested also in particular in gathering military intelligence. They seem that the main efforts, the main focus is actually to collect intelligence on the domestic population in the West mainly, and also by now on the population of the entire planet. Creating this kind of colossal radar whereby take anything, someone getting politicized, someone start to make some post on social network criticizing the state of Israel, someone the creation of a new political group, they can immediately flag all this stuff in real time, and then what happened next is history. So yeah, so that's quite interesting. So it's very, very illuminating to read this Surveillance Valley book. That it's quite another very interesting thing, because it's quite it's not possibly enormously meaningful, but it's quite interesting that with the radar defense system, which was developed, there was this SAGE group working in the U.S. and SAGE project trying to develop the radar military system, which done towards the end of World War II. Then it started being used in Hungary towards the end of World War II. Then after World War II, it became widespread. It became now, a radar system all over the place. And it's quite interesting because on one end, it seemed to be this experiment with the radar system, which it seemed to have be at the origin of the discovery of the Frey effect. These scientists, they start to notice all the people working in proximity of this radar equipment, they will start to strange noise and clicks inside the head, and then they start to they discover what is called, from the name of the scientist who investigate this phenomenon, it was called the Frey effect. But and then I always kind of believed that that was one of the reasons why they start looking into they start looking into they start to realize that you can use microwave to affect the human body and to affect the human nervous system. I think that may have actually been the origin of starting to look, experiment in this kind of direction, taking it as far as possible, but it's quite interesting because now what Yasha Levin is saying in Surveillance Valley, it seems that so I really thought that may have actually is being the beginning of electronic harassment, whereby what was previously MK Ultra in the world of Ilana Freedom, it became electronic MK Ultra, whereby they were experimenting with LSD, they were experimenting with so many different things. It was a bit that they were conducting like fishing expeditions in all kinds of direction. But at some point, it's quite obvious that most of their interest is they abandoned all this kind of different projects which were not going anywhere anyway. They started to focus all their interest, so it became electronic MK Ultra, and they started to focus all their interest in using microwave to interact with the human body, and more specifically to interact with the human nervous system. So that's quite interesting. But so for me, that was it was. But then Yasha Levin in this book, he says like. At Harvard, at the MIT, most of the people who previously were working on the SAGE project, which was a project aimed at creating the defense radar system, most of these people were actually moved to the ARPANET project. It's quite interesting because it's not like they creating this radar system, they invented this radar system. Some of the scientists at the MIT, they invented this radar system, which now is ubiquitous. You can fly a plane without the radar system or anything. It's everywhere. We have in overlapping radar system covering the entire globe at the moment. It's collecting. Yeah, but it's kind of Yasha Levin is saying that some of this. The same scientists which at the time at the MIT were working on this SAGE project, developing the new radar defense system, they were the same scientists that afterwards they were moved to ARPANET. Interestingly enough, with ARPANET, with the internet, with social network, they created this kind of social radar, which then has been growing and growing and growing and growing, collecting more and more information from different sources, and now we have not only a pervasive, ubiquitous radar system with is indispensable for flying any plane or anything, but we have, unbeknownst to the majority of people, they have created this social radar system, which now is not just covering just Western countries, just covering the entire globe, the entire planet, whereby they can monitor in real time any kind of people posting something against the state of Israel, some criticism, people getting politicized, the formation of political group, the planning on some big protest, that they can flag this stuff in real time. So that's quite interesting. That's what it's all about. Fusion Center, all the data they collect in all of us. They created, to make a long story short, they've been creating these. This huge this huge social radar system whereby they can, get immediate flag any kind of information with regard to people getting politicized, criticizing the state of Israel, criticizing Zionism, organizing a political group, planning a big protest, all this stuff. I think they're ready, even though they're still, they're still working at improving the hardware, improving the software. But I think that they have already in place that they want this global radar system whereby anything, they can flag anything, they can flag anything that can be perceived as a threat to the current establishment. So people getting politicized, the emerging of important social political movement, they they flag immediately in real time. That's basically what's really happening. So that is also a key element to enslave us all, basically, right? So I will advise everyone to read Yasha Levin, Surveillance Valley. Is you can get it on Kindle. I'm not flogging or plugging or anything, but I mean it's a very good book. You can get it on Kindle for a few quid, for a few dollars or whatever. And then you can download it immediately. Okay, you can read. It's a fantastic book because he seemed to try he seemed somewhat to try to counter this illusion that the internet, the information technology is some kind. It's like a big party, and I mean, like a big party. Maybe it's in doing that. He also goes to have a look at what was happening in. What was happening, for instance, during World War II with IBM. IBM did provide Nazi Germany with all the tabulate which they were using very effectively to run all the different the different labor camps all in Germany and all the occupied territories. So anyway, Yasha Levin is trying to debunk this idea that like the internet or information technology is just one big party. And nowadays we are finding out a bit that what's really happening with all this stuff with the hardware. Actually, a lot of people are finding out the hardware. When they get, they lose their job, they get a knock on the door on a different thing because of the stuff they've been posting online. So we're starting maybe to realize a bit what Yasha Levin just, is telling us all the ins and outs. I mean, that actually from the very beginning is that they were already thinking, by say, okay, this communication network which is resistant to, it can survive the major nuclear war, it can survive a major catastrophe, but also that's the official narrative. But what they didn't tell people was that at the time, there was this, late 40, early 50, early 60. There's the birth of the American Empire in a way, but the American Empire it was just born. I mean, it was feeling very threatened by the internal dissent at home, very threatened by the expansion of communism, very threatened from all the different liberation movements emerging all over the world in developing countries. So, which Yasha Levin argues is quite the reason why. They were very much interested in creating this new ARPANET, a system that could survive a major nuclear war, a major catastrophe. But they also their mind was very much focused on a big counterintelligence program, because the new American empire from the very beginning felt really threatened. It felt threatened at home by increasing dissent, by protest movement. It felt really very threatened by the expansion of communism abroad, overseas. It was feeling very threatened by all these different liberation movements emerging all over the world in developing countries. So as soon as it was born, the new American empire was feeling very threatened by all these dangers. And so ARPANET, it was not just about a very resilient communication system. It was about the key word there is counterintelligence to control dissent at home, to counter all the different liberation movement and expansion of communism. And now I think this is very much coming to complete fruition. They have this social radar system whereby, they know everything about anyone. They can, if there's emerging a new movement or a big protest plan, they can immediately flag it and then look into it, etc., etc., etc. So that's in a way, this kind of dovetail a bit with what you can find in the by the Al Jazeera documentary about the Al Jazeera documentary called The Lobby, about AIPAC, all the different Jewish lobby in the United States, and how they basically control the entire country. I don't know, when you say this kind of stuff, it's all factual, and it may get you in trouble, but it's all true anyway. So it's quite interesting because where is the connection there? The connection is that it seems that there is a ministry in Israel called the Ministry of Strategic Affairs, right? And they basically they created a similar social radar, again global social radar, whereby which is very similar to what I just describing just now, but in a way is specifically designed this other social radar, which is very similar in nature to the one I just described, being run by the previous one by U.S. intelligence, British intelligence, French intelligence, etc., etc. So the state of Israel, they seem to have a similar social radar, which is mainly focused on identifying anyone which may express any kind on social network all over the world. We may express any criticism of the state of Israel, identifying anyone who may support the BDS movement, boycott, divest, sanctions movement, and then then as soon as they identify like, oh, okay, in this kind of university they started to develop a big BDS movement, very strong BDS movement. They immediately do all kinds of stuff. They immediately start, all the people involved. They start completely researching all the people involved in this new BDS movement to find out if they can find anything, dig up any dirt on them. The in-depth research on the life of these people. And a lot of these people get their life completely destroyed, actually. So in-depth research into the life of these people, they immediately flag, and they immediately take action. They send people undercover in the environment to collect information, maybe to cause trouble for the. They do everything possible to discredit these, people like organization which support the Palestinian people, organization with advocate PDS. They do everything possible to discredit them, to ruin their life, to ruin their family life, to make them lose their jobs. And then you may say like it's a similar kind of social radar, but maybe there's all part of the same social radar because it may be just one big social radar, which is in this case is used in a I don't think there is a distinction in terms of infrastructure. In terms of infrastructure, that this social radar being run by Western intelligence, at the social radar run by the Israeli Department of Strategic Affairs. Or I tend to believe that is actually is the same big global social radar, able to identify anything happening, movement, groups, formation, new ideas, and people getting politicized, and it's the same social radar which in the case of, like is shown in this the Lobby, Al Jazeera The Lobby documentary, is also used in many different ways, finding keeping track of radicalization and anti-establishment radicalization all over the world, and But so I think it's actually the same huge global radar, which in this case is being used by which being used by the Israeli Department of Strategic Affairs, which is that the state of Israel has full access to all Western intelligence, is being given full access of. Don't ask me why, but that's the fact. We know it's been documented that the state of Israel has full access to all Western intelligence collected by the Western intelligence community. So I think it's actually the same encompassing huge, colossal social radar, but which in this case is being used to identify any critic of the state of Israel, anyone advocating, anyone try to defend the rights of the Palestinian people, everyone try to support the BDS movement, etc., etc., etc. So that's quite. So in a way, it was quite an eye opener to and then there is but then if you and then there was this 3 article I read recently. No, actually two articles, because it's supposed to be a trilogy, but the third one is not is not in the public domain yet. So I was only able to read the first 2 by Max Blumenthal and his associate. Again, I'm terribly sorry, Rubinstein. I can't remember the first name. But a couple of American journalists about the activity. It is very much connected to the social radar reality. The activity is of Pierre Omidyar. Pierre Omidyar, which is also one of the main sponsors of the Intercept. That's another story, but another sorry story. But I mean. But they're intercepting all this Snowden, basically. They call the Intercept because they've been intercepting all the Snowden files, and now in the public domain we are probably 1% of all the Snowden files. So that's why they call the Intercept. That's quite probably they're having a laugh there, but I don't know. Someone is having a big laugh there in that department. But so Pierre Omidyar, which is also one of the big sponsors of the, possibly the main sponsor of the Intercept. It is a show. I'm sure. Pierre Omidyar was a multi-billionaire. He has a huge amount of money. He was possibly the original main founder of eBay and PayPal. But it's not. You have a huge amount of money. More, you can get your head around how much money this guy does have. It's mind blowing. But multi-billionaire, huge amount of money, one of the richest men on the planet. But instead of going to retire and have a nice time with it, it's basically I like many other like many other billionaires, and we can think of we can think of people like Soros. We can think of people like what is Peter Thiel, which is again was one of the founder of, if not eBay, at least of PayPal. Now I think he was also heavily involved with Palantir, a quite sinister company which collects all your data. I do unspeakable thing with them. But to make a story short, to cut to the chase, Palantir, that's what they do. So it seemed that like Pierre Omidyar, like Peter Thiel, like Joe Smith of Alphabet and Google, running Alphabet. I think now is the president. Joe Smith is the president of Alphabet, controlling Google, and then you have Jeff Bezos. You have people like quite a billionaire like Richard Branson, which I would include it. And then you have Rupert Murdoch, all these billionaires. I mean, they seem that instead of retiring and enjoying their money, they seem more intent in maintaining and developing and a huge spider web extending all over the globe, a huge spider web extending all over the globe, which is based on this kind of social radar. which I mentioned before, whereby they can basically know everything about everybody and flag events, protests, probably long before they're going to take place, flag the starting of the planning of a big protest, the starting of a new movement. They can flag all this stuff long before it comes to full fruition. So, it's similar. All these people like Rupert Murdoch, Jeff Bezos, Joe Smith, and and Peter Thiel, Pierre Omidyar, Branson, Richard Branson. They have this, instead of they have a huge amount of money. Instead of retire, taking it easy and enjoying their money, since that they actually they are at the center of a huge spider web, which comprises which comprises 100 different organizations, think tanks, astroturf organization, fake political group, fake political party, fake protest group, and we're talking thousands. I think actually in this article they try to make some kind of interactive map of this huge spider web. You get literally hundreds, if thousands of different organizations, small organizations, large organizations, all these NGOs that most of the time they basically work for this billionaire anyway. Most of them are totally compromised. We know they work for regime change. They work for to push agenda, which is at the end of the day they're going the direction of helping with the enslavement of humanity, etc., etc. So a huge network of different organizations, and so you have to first you have the social radar, and then through exploring the work of these people like Soros, and I think it's what is called Open Society Organization or something. But Open Society Organization has 1,000 of spin-off, a small group in every single country that try to subvert the government to enslave people, to make more money for the oligarchs and for the oligarchy class, and etc., etc. So you have all these people, Branson and Peter Thiel, Pierre Omidyar, Rupert Murdoch, all these criminals, basically, Soros, all these criminals, glorified criminals, that they basically, and it would appear that is this the infamous integrity initiative in this country, which is now every day with more information is coming out about this integrity, so-called integrity is anything but, it doesn't have anything to do with integrity. On the contrary, this integrity initiative, which is I think one of the we're trying to find out every day a bit more information about this nefarious endeavor, which was being was being like in this country, the United Kingdom, was being like financed to the tune of millions by the government, by the Foreign Office. It is they were engaging in all. They were trying to. They were very active in basically in constantly orchestrating a constant campaign. They probably have access to all the mainstream media in this country. They can influence what the mainstream media publish. A huge campaign of brainwashing and propaganda, including the complete character assassination of Jeremy Corbyn. They appear to be at the we've been initiating this anti-Semitism row in the Labour Party. So complete character assassination. The New Times spinning against Jeremy Corbyn, the Times spinning against Russia. They were producing a lot of misinformation at the time of the Skripal affair. So this is very interesting. So that's what they're trying to do in this country. They probably, I wouldn't exclude them being involved in in the recent split in the Labour Party. There may have been some kind of influence in that. So you have all these literally thousand. Then you have the white. You can think of different things. You can think of the white helmets, which the total was 300% an instrument of propaganda. And so one of the results of this kind of activity that we are presented by mainstream media is that a complete a complete fake representation of what is basically. I need to drink some fruit juice because it's a bit. My mouth is a bit dry. A complete fake representation of everything happening in. So you see in a way that the way also they a part of this enslavement. So I look at different sides of this enslavement. I think a very important element of this enslavement of. This enslavement of people basically is the fact that in the mainstream media, the official narrative is a total distortion to what is actually happening in the world. In a way that maybe it would have been, it wouldn't have been possible maybe just 20 years ago. So you get things like this you know. This campaign of character assassination against Jeremy Corbyn, so every day they come up with start dig up some new nonsense. You get these all these these you know all this the story about anti-Semitism in the Labour Party, which is being disproved by any kind of they've been conducting studies and showing that actually the incidence of any kind of anti-Semitic incident in the Labour Party smaller than in other parties, smaller than in the rest of wider rest of society. So a very, very teeny amount of incidents of this kind of very involving members of the Labour Party are really, really teeny, small. So you can only conclude that obviously that's this old story being created by people who they're desperate to desperate to prevent a Corbyn government, and Corbyn government is going to touch so many vested interests in this country, people which now they use basically to completely live off the fat of the land, and and pushing millions into abject poverty, homelessness, and destroying the life of millions of people in this country and living off the fat of the land. So obviously, there's people who have a vested interest in preventing a Corbyn government, and that also is a well-known fact that Jeremy Corbyn certainly is not in any way anti-Semitic. I think if anyone knows anything about Jeremy Corbyn, the suggestion is just totally preposterous. But there you go. But so Jeremy Corbyn is certainly not anti-Semitic, but he's certainly a big supporter of the Palestinian people, which at the moment in Gaza and in the West Bank they're being treated like garbage by the Israeli government. Garbage. They've been treated like garbage. I mean, you can use even stronger expression. I mean, which more reflective of what is going on in the Gaza. But let's say they've been treated like garbage by the Israeli government. So Jeremy Corbyn is, even though he's certainly not anti-Semitic in any way, shape, or form, is a big defender of the human rights of the Palestinian people, and is actually planning to recognize the Palestinian state, which is, every country in the world that there is, they could do to counter the horrific oppression being inflicted on the Palestinian people, that the least they can do is at least to recognize the Palestinian state. So that's what Jeremy Corbyn is planning to do. Is also, I believe, is possibly has been in the past supporting the BDS movement. It's not because he's anti-Semitic, because he's standing up for human rights all over the world. In every has been all his career, all his life in Parliament has been. Standing up for for peace, for the self-determination, human rights in this country and abroad. That's what it is. So it certainly is not anti-Semitic, because if the entire suggestion, is all this fight, all this political life been fighting against racism in any shape or form. So I mean, the suggestion is totally preposterous. But now it's quite appalling to see how between these journalists, mainstream media journalists, they call themselves journalists. I don't know why, but but it's become like a gospel, the fact that, oh yes, Jeremy Corbyn is anti-Semitic, the Labour Party is anti-Semitic. There's a shred of evidence for that, but it's like, so it's becoming an assumption. I was like, sometime I watch for a little while, just to see what they're getting up to, some of the mainstream media channel for a little while, and I see so it's like, for them, the fact that Jeremy Corbyn and the Labour Party are anti-Semitic is like a given. It's like, that is something you can discuss, or like, to analyze or investigate to see what's true, it's just it's like the gospel, the new gospel. Oh, of course, it's a given. Jeremy Corbyn is anti-Semitic, the Labour Party is anti-Semitic. It's like a given. So like Goebbels said, if you repeat a lie. If you repeat a lie enough time, everyone will start to believe it. If you repeat this lie a few more times, you yourself will start to believe it, even though you are supposed to know that it is a lie. So yeah, so that's the way it goes. And also, another good one, in which I think it was coming from one of these Nazi top people, as I say, which is, I think, in the current situation with all the news we heard about Venezuela and etc. I mean, it's very relevant. I think I think it was probably Himmler who said, like, you do not accuse your enemies of just anything. You accuse your enemies of the very thing you are doing. So that's another one. That give you some context on the stuff going on at the moment. So I was quite impressed by this different article and books I came across recently. And another interesting thing that people may actually find useful to know is that Yasha Levin, in his book Surveillance Valley, is pointing out the fact. I'm sure a lot of people know that the CIA was like spending some money financing the Tor project. Now, Yasha Levin, what he does show, a document, is the fact that actually the Tor project is actually financed to almost 99% by either the CIA, the U.S. intelligence community, or the State Department. So, which is so, and then you say why? They say why they are financing the Tor project and the dark net. Why? So there is the two possible answers. The first one is quite hypothetical, because no one knows for sure if that is the case, if that is correct. That they may have some backdoor into Tor. Unbeknown to anyone, they may have backdoors into Tor. So basically, they're luring people into this false sense of security. We use Tor, we can enjoy some kind of anonymity, but then there's even more information they're collecting on everybody. So that is the first hypothesis, that they may have backdoors into Tor. So that's why they're financing it with total abandonment. And the second hypothesis is quite interesting, because I never heard anyone mention this thing before. Tor can be quite useful when the State Department or all these billionaire bankers in the West, they're sponsoring some color revolution, some like they're doing now in Venezuela. They're also trying to do it in Nicaragua, and every time they sponsor a new color revolution, but basically subverting democratic elected government, or government who care for, for their own people, replacing them with criminal or with total chaos, like in Libya. Every time that they try to do that, Tor is very useful to them. Because let's have an example. During the so-called Arab Spring, uh, what the Egyptian government, the Libyan government, one of the first steps they were taking to calm the situation down a bit, they were trying to control the internet. They were trying to, but all this is these protesters, the leader of the protest, they were still managing to keep in touch with uh, um, with each other by using Tor. So the organizing meeting, organizing protests, communicating with each other, planning future protests using Tor. It's happening in Egypt, is happening in Libya. I'm going to be some kind of devil advocate and say maybe they financing Tor, sponsoring Tor, because it's quite a useful tool in all the color revolution, subversion they organizing all over the world, wherever there is a government which is trying to do the interest of their own people instead of the interest of the Wall Street, City of London bankers. Those immediately try to subvert the government or to, and Tor can, in this modern age when most of communication happens through the internet, so, if they go after a government purely for, survival instinct, then the government to try to exert some kind of control over the internet. And Tor can bypass that. So actually, so complete turning the old Tor narrative on his head. Like people think, oh yeah, Tor is an instrument of freedom. It give me some freedom, some anonymity. I can use Tor. Don't have the government looking over my shoulder all the time what I'm doing online. But actually, it may be the exact opposite. Tor may have been used from the very start as an instrument of the deep state to actually foment and facilitate all this subversion and color revolution in Ukraine, in Libya, in Syria, in former Yugoslavia, and now in Venezuela, etc., etc., etc. So that's I would advise everyone to read Yasha Levin Surveillance Valley, because it change, it show you that a lot of the assumptions you may be making about the internet and Tor and a lot of other things may actually be factually incorrect. And so it turned a lot of assumptions on his head, basically, on their head. Then I will also advise anyone to watch Al Jazeera until it's still be quick, because I don't think it's the kind of material that may be available on the internet for too long. This kind of this Al Jazeera documentary in 4 parts, for 1 hour part, 4 hours, is worth every single second of your time if you watch it. It's a bit mind-blowing, also a bit shocking, because about the activity of the IPAC and the Israeli lobby in the United States. So, and then this article by Max Rubinstein and Max Rubinstein and his associate. Again, I don't remember the first name. Max Blumenthal and his associate Rubinstein something. I don't remember the first name. I'm sorry. Which is fantastic articles, and the third part is in 3 parts. 2 parts I read already. The third one is probably going to come out in the next few days. About basically it's about this the fact that there is not just some kind of social radar whereby now they're already able to keep an eye all over the world globally on social movement, the formation of political groups, and the planning of big protests, individuals getting politicized, people criticizing the state of Israel. But if you look at the activity of people like Bezos and Omidyar and Peter Thiel and Richard Branson, Soros, Rupert Murdoch, is the integrity initiative that came to light just in the last few weeks in the United Kingdom, is go well beyond that. It's not just some kind of social radar where they can to keep an eye on everything happening in the world in the way of political activism the formation of political group, etc., etc. They create this spider web with this billionaire at the center of Pierre Omidyar, Joe Smith and Bezos, Soros. Basically, we are talking thousands and thousands of group, AstroTurf, political party, think tank, influence group, thousands all connected with each other, all usually getting a huge amount of money. But I'm not going to specific example because it will take too long, but it's like a spider. So you have this social radar when they can find out anything they want about anyone, which is also, as the lobby documentary shows, is actually used by Israel the Department of Strategic Affairs to find out anyone in the world which may be criticizing the state of Israel, support BDS, support the Palestinian people. And then they start researching, they start looking really in depth into all these people, see if they can find any dirt, they can find they get them sacked, if they can get destroy their family life, even people coming out with false allegation and So and then So that I think is all for. So bear in mind there is this now there are this kind of social radar whereby they obviously can go into details. That there is also subplots in all this stuff, which is also very interesting, like the fact that Pierre Midyar is supporting Bill Kristol, the neocon, the husband of Victoria Nuland. So they're all connecting with each other. It's like a horrific spider web of lies, lies, propaganda, regime change, pushing people into debt, abject poverty, causes the death of millions of people, pushing millions of people into abject poverty, and so it's pretty horrific. It's like a spider web. And, at the very center of the spider web, you find people like Soros and Rupert Murdoch, Pierre Omidyar, Peter Thiel, Richard Branson, even Henry Kissinger and the associates, that's his firm, and etc., etc. It's a horrific spider web, and the results if million more people being pushed into homelessness, abject poverty, being killed by war, like is happening now in Yemen. It's a horrific spider web. A million people are dying, a million people are suffering. So it's not a conspiracy theory or something. It's a horrific fact that this is in place. It's all documented. It's all Yeah. And then to end, I would like to look at something which is quite connected, which is what's happening in Venezuela. And I don't think I shock very easily. But I don't know if I can find the article I would like to show you. I don't know if I can manage to get my hand into this article. Yes, see. Yeah, I think what I find shocking is yeah. Okay, I think that may be the article. Actually, let's have a look. Yeah, it say like the article is saying. See if I can show it to you. The article is saying something we all know anyway, that Human Rights Watch appears to be a propaganda organization. That's actually we have known for quite a few years. there's nothing new, but so that's what I've been finding quite shocking. I need to tell you is the brazen lies. There is no resistance on the part of the media or the part of various political organizations, including the European Union, in its entirety to these brazen lies about Venezuela. Is shocking. Just yesterday or the day before, I was watching this. So Venezuela, I mean, is I really duplicity in all its forms. I find it very shocking. This kind of duplicity is of mind-blowing proportions. I mean, but let's have a look at this article. Just yesterday or the day before, Max Blumenthal, which is a journalist, one of the few journalists left on this planet, I mean, because all the rest are just ruffians and, just. But Max Blumenthal, which I greatly admire, is writing this series of articles about this horrific spider web of propaganda, disinformation, regime change, and astroturf movement. It was also in the last couple of days. It was also into Caracas in Venezuela. So he was working in Caracas through supermarket, and markets. They seem to this so-called shortage of food shortage. I mean, you see supermarket that look like our supermarket with the all shelf full of food. You look popular market with all kind of items. So we have been told so many lies about Venezuela. Let's see if I can go have a quick look at this article. So you say big lies by human. This is the. I think it may be this article may actually be by the excellent, fantastic. Stephen Landman, which is a total star. Is a total star in what he does. Is work for the bank called TBS. We are getting from amongst other things from mainstream media. So, but it's not just like, this article is about the lies of Human Rights Watch, but it's unfortunate, these obscene lies about what's happening in Venezuela. They have been spread by most 99% of all, all mainstream media, even to a smaller degree, hopefully, but by some alternative media. So, but yeah. Sorry, say about the. So then they say there's five big lies. Five big lies. First of all, the big lies is that the Venezuela is in a state of chaos and. Venezuela is in a state of chaos and Venezuela is in a state of chaos, and there is no food in the shop. Max Blumenthal, he spent some hours walking through Caracas in Venezuela, and he showed that is complete BS. The supermarket, they work in a normal way, like Western supermarket. You have a lot of popular markets full of stuck with food, all kind of different items. So that's the first lie. Then, another lie, and I'm not going to look in detail at this article, but I will go through what I believe are some of the main lies to the best of my knowledge. Another lie is that Maduro won. In 2016, he won the presidential election by rigging. Right? That's another obscene lie. Why? Because, Maduro won the last presidential election by getting 60% of the vote, right? And there was hundreds, if not thousands, of international observers on the ground in Venezuela. They all say, it does include former U.S. President Jimmy Carter saying exactly the same thing. They were all saying that was one of the cleanest, fair elections they ever monitored in their entire life. They were all saying cleanest election they ever monitored, right? So that's lie number two. Lie number three is, it's true that there is, lie number three is that Venezuela is a dictatorship where people don't have any right, any freedom of speech, any right to protest, etc., etc. So look at what's was happening actually in Tigray. Look at the brutality of the repression in Haiti, right? Look at the brutality of the repression in Paris and in France of the Yellow Vest movement. And then mainstream media try to say, oh, no, it's not police brutality because they're desperate to suppress this movement. So they all engage in provocation. It's not the police starting to engage in provocation or starting violence because they're scared of this movement. Yeah, no, it's the all these ruffian in the mercenary ruffian in Messimia, they try to blame the protester. But if you talk to the people in the street in Paris, witnessing all this stuff, they're all saying, no, it's not the protester being violent. It's the police in initiating the violence. So compare the image we are getting out of Paris and other places in France of the horrific repression and brutality being inflicted on the protester in France. And then look at all these protester in Caracas in Venezuela, which they get together, no one is bothering them, take over entire city, take over entire part of the city, they do whatever they want, they all look really well dressed and well fed and all belonging to the bourgeois class. I'm not saying that it's a crime to belong to the bourgeois class, but so we're talking about the horrible deprivation in Venezuela. So you get all these protesters, all well dressed, all well fed, with their smartphone, everyone with their smartphone flocking through, and no one is bothering them. And then look at the horrific scene of violence coming out of Paris. But allegedly, France, which by the way called for regime change in Venezuela, Macron called for regime change in Venezuela. We have the mainstream media telling us that there is horrific repression in Venezuela. Horrific repression in Venezuela, but instead in France, all the horrible police brutality, they use rubber bullet, they use rubber bullet to the side of a golf ball, which a lot of people, 1,300 people suffer grievous injuries, the protesters. They use this tear gas grenade. It's not a question about tear gas. We are not worried about tear gas. It's the fact that these things explode in proximity with limbs. Don't worry about the tear. They're called tear gas grenade. Don't worry about the tear gas. These things are supposed to explode. They usually explode in proximity of people's eyes, people's arms. People get the hands completely ripped off. People's legs getting completely ripped off. So it's like more. So it's they're tear gas grenade. No, they are grenade because a lot of people have been losing their eyes, their arms, their hands, their legs. They lost the legs or something. So they are grenades. Let's forget about the tear gas part. They are grenades which are supposed to explode. Often explode in proximity of the limbs of people. That people are going to end up losing them. So that's what's happening in France. But obviously, France is a democracy. Nothing wrong. Nothing to see here. Move on. Yeah, that's perfectly fine. So it's not the fault of the protester. We have the Rothschild president there, Emmanuel Macron, which used to work for a child Paris. This is not a conspiracy theory, even though I would forgive you for thinking that it may be one, but unfortunately it's not a conspiracy theory. Unfortunately, this guy, Emmanuel Macron, was working for a child Paris, mergers and acquisition for many years as a banker. Yeah. Then he was he worked for 2 years for the it's a new phase. Oh yeah, it's a new phase. He was working for 2 years for the François Hollande government, just a few years ago, and he was the one presiding over austerity. He was designing all the austerity policies in France, causing the death of many French people, pushing people into abject poverty. Yeah, they disappeared for a couple of years. I'm sure he disappeared for a couple of years because they already decided to appoint him. The bankers already decided at the time, he was working in the background, like the creepy crawly is. He was working in the background, presiding over austerity with the François Hollande government, causing the death of many French people through austerity. We know austerity in this country. So, yeah. So, and then he disappeared for a couple of years because the bankers already decided, presumably, to appoint him as the next president of France. And after a couple of years, he did crawl out of the woodwork, try to invent some new, political virginity for himself, and a new phase. And now it's pushing millions of French people into despair and poverty and debt and abject poverty. So that's Francois Hollande, which he was one of the first people to call for regime change in Venezuela, you see. So the violence and the horrific violence inflicted on the protesters in France is all the fault of the protesters, right? But why is when you see all this big crowd of protesters in Caracas, like all well fed, all with their smartphone, all like dressed quite with expensive clothes, and you know. And I'm not saying that belonging to the bourgeois class is anything wrong with that, yeah. But so that's the point. And usually the police, there is no interference by the police. They maybe take, they're at the margin of the protest, but they don't interfere with it. That is an expression of the horrific authoritarian Maduro government, and in France it's that is democracy. It is all the brutality is the fault of the protester. In Caracas, you have this big rally. There's no interference on the part of the police or law enforcement. They look nice and well fed and well dressed with their smartphone and stuff, and that is the brutality of the Maduro regime. There you can see the brutality of the Maduro regime, yeah. And then, there is this other nice story, which is like, there is no freedom of press whatsoever in Venezuela, As I say, if you repeat a lie enough times, they become the official gospel, the official truth. So there is no, there is no freedom of speech. Now, let me tell you about Venezuela. Venezuela, like in our country, like in the United States, like in many European countries, like in many countries all over the world, all the 95% of the press is owned by a very small number, maybe 2 or 3, press barons who are dead against the Maduro government. So So that's what is supposed to mean not having any freedom of speech in Venezuela. We have all this media controlled by this press barons, which are totally against the government. And all the time they printing and producing and disseminating scurrilous story about the government, about Maduro, insults, smear, fake accusation, propaganda, all the time. They even, from time to time, they even call for the assassination of Maduro. They're getting away with it. Like this punk, Juan Guaido was going along, he was supposed to engage in what treasonous activity, yeah? Totally treasonous activity. He was going around the country free to move around, mess around with everything, and no one was doing anything about it. That was the repressive, horrible repressive nature of the Maduro government. You see. This guy would have been put in jail with for high treason. He was throwing his weight all around the country, go to the border, come back to Caracas, do whatever he wanted, and no one was touching him, no one was doing anything about it. That is the horrific repressive nature of the Maduro government, you see, together with the fact that they have the 95% of the media controlled by these press barons. They even call for the assassination, a regular interval, they're even calling for the assassination of Nicolas Maduro. They're getting away with it. You see, there is no freedom of speech in Venezuela. There is a horrific repressive regime. So that's some of the horrific lies they try to spread about Venezuela. And the horrific thing is, I was really appalled to see as soon as this punk, Juan Guaido, declaring himself president. So it'd be interesting if it's, Mélenchon in France, declaring himself president because of the repressive Macron regime. It doesn't be interesting to see what happened if that were the case. But, so basically we have this situation whereby all these lies, but I was quite shocked to see that the European community, as soon as this punk Juan Guaido declared himself president, they immediately all the European community, all the 20, I don't know how many there is left now in this completely bankrupt, disgusting, revolting institution, which is the European community. But they wanted to issue a communicate to say that they were supporting this punk, Juan Guaido, basically. It's the only reason they didn't do, were unable to do that, is that Italy, which most people say, oh, Italy is the government is fascist, they're fascist, fascist. Yeah, the only reason, yeah, they were unable to issue a unified position, like we support Juan Guaido as the new president, is because Italy they say no, we don't support regime change in Venezuela. So the people say, oh, the Italian government is a fascist government. I don't know if they're a fascist government, but they're doing things like trying to give everyone, they try to create universal income in Italy. They try to do things like stopping austerity, stopping austerity and stopping austerity and creating a program to relaunch the economy, which in Italy is very much needed, including the creation of green jobs, etc., etc. And they were trying to change course, abandon austerity. They tried to create the economic policy stimulating the economy. They were prevented from these despicable, revolting, evil bureaucrats in Brussels, basically. So people say the Italian government is a fascist government, but that may be the case, I don't know, but they're trying to do quite a lot of good things, I think. And then maybe they may be a fascist government, who knows? It's only the eye of the beholder, but yeah. So even the European community, they were rushing in to immediately, in a matter of 24, 48 hours, they wanted to recognize this punk, Juan Guaido, this CIA punk. So you have all the different in and downs of this story in Venezuela, but mainly it seems that, is amazing because theists with all obscene lies are getting accepted. The speed with which the European community wanted to recognize this creature, Juan Guaido, even by their standards of these people, the British government, the American government, the European Union, that's quite appalling. I mean, you have to pinch yourself. I think there was this thing like, on Twitter, as soon as this creature, Juan Guaido, declared himself as the new president of Venezuela, in Twitter, they deleted 2,000 accounts for people questioning the official narrative, like, questioning the official narrative about Venezuela. Some of the stuff I'm telling you now, no, it's not true. There is food in the shop, there is food in the supermarket. People can even, it's not a dictatorship. Even, international servers say that the last election was super clean. People can even call for the assassination of Maduro, get away with it. It's not a dictatorship. This punk, Juan Guaido, was throwing, which should have been in jail for treason, was throwing his weight all over the country, do whatever he wanted, and no one was interfering with him. It's not a dictatorship by any stretch of the imagination. Yeah. And so for 2,000 people for saying this kind of stuff I'm telling to you now, it's touch and go. If in terms of people being able to, we are all being hostages on social networks. So it's touch and go. There is never any warning, never any recourse, any appealing. So it's touch and go. Here today, gone tomorrow, in terms of accounts. So God knows what's happened to it. So it's touch and go. But 2,000 people as soon as this creature, Juan Guaido, declared himself as the new president of Venezuela, 2,000 people get their Twitter account deleted for saying some of the things I'm telling you now. Even Jimmy Carter is saying that the election was fair and square. They can even call for the assassination of Maduro free press. Can be more free. They even calling for the assassination of Maduro. They get away with it. So for telling some of the things I'm telling you now about the truth about things happening in Venezuela, 2,000 people immediately get questioning the official narrative about Venezuela. 2,000 Twitter accounts were immediately deleted. Obviously, as per usual, with the way it happens, always with social network, no warning, no recourse, no appealing, gone. Yeah, and then I think you have in the British Parliament. I think there was As far as I know, there was one member of parliament who questioned the official narrative about Venezuela, the excellent Chris Williamson, which is also, I think, the only member of our parliament to have been, speaking in defense of Julian Assange and saying that the human right of Julian Assange has been a political right, and of Julian Assange has been violated in the most horrific way. So I greatly admire this Chris Williamson Chris Williamson was the only person in the British Parliament, I think, I don't know, I may be wrong, but as far as I know, he was the only person in the British Parliament to question the official narrative about Venezuela. In the same way, I was the only member of Parliament to say anything in defense of Julian Assange. And then, after he tried to, tell you, to say in Parliament some of the thing I'm telling you now, it's all lies. The election was fair and square. The people are not dying of hunger in Venezuela. The shop and supermarkets are full of food. The young guy, this punk, he was throwing his weight. He should be in jail for treason. He was throwing his weight all over the country, and no one was bothering him. And this media Venezuelan media can even call for the assassination of Maduro, get away with it. So for pointing out some of these facts, then his media, Chris Williamson in Parliament was savaged by some of the other ruffian, banker ruffian, and says, I think someone said to him, how do you dare to show your face in Parliament and defend Venezuela or something, defend the government there? So, so immediately, if you don't toe the line and you don't go, the 2,000 account on Twitter deleted for questioning the official narrative on Venezuela. So as soon as they probably have all the social radar, they know what people doing and saying. As soon as you go against the official narrative, do something, so immediately some kind of sanction, and they do stuff to you. That's the score, basically. So we are all being enslaved, okay? The great majority of the population are being enslaved. Up to 60-70% of people in North America and Europe live in abject poverty. Targeting individuals is a different story, because that's what targeting individuals is just what they're trying to do to the great majority of the population in the next few years. So they're trying it out on us. That is horrific torture. So if people were to look at this thing with some objectivity, they will realize what is in way for them in the next few years, on top of all the stuff they've already been doing to them, cutting their job, wages, benefit, welfare, public services, taking away privacy, civil liberty, freedom of speech. What they are going to do next is what they're doing to us now. So if you think it's bad now with homelessness and the food bank and food stamps, wait until they start to roll out all the stuff they're doing to target individuals to you. If you think what you're going through is already bad with austerity and stuff, wait until the targeting program is going to be rolling out on the entire population. That's what I say to people. Now you think you are crazy. Well, maybe in a few years' time you may think slightly differently. So I think I exhausted all the subject I wanted to talk about. We can say a few words about this ruffian Richard Branson, which is this despicable creature, which is basically, he made money and the name for himself by rebranding all kinds of criminal corporation and bankrupt corporation and failing corporation and dodgy corporation. So that's why he made a huge amount of money with this kind of exercising rebranding. People who use his training in this country, they know what I'm talking about. So now it seems that he's graduating from making a huge amount of money from rebranding all this failing, criminal, compromised, dodgy corporation to something else. He's graduating to regime change. He's going up in the world, Richard Branson, and so obviously he's instrumental in this provocation at the border between Venezuela and Colombia. It's quite interesting that Colombia, which is basically a narco state, a narco republic, dominated by the drug trafficking and by all this criminal gang, and which is also used as some sort of aircraft carrier for the United States with all the military bases there. Is basically a narco republic. It's interesting that the narco republic of Colombia, which is also a fascist republic, which are still guerrilla groups fighting the government and stuff, they think they can import democracy into Venezuela. The narco republic of Colombia. I think when you say Colombia, it's kind of synonymous with crime, drug crime, narco republic. They even have some guerrilla going on there. There's some kind of civil war going on. It's quite interesting that they can think that is like used as aircraft carrier for the United States with all the military bases and stuff. It's quite interesting that they can think that the moral authority. I mean, when you say, sometimes I say to people, the Tory are trying to make our country like Colombia. So I mean, not disrespect to the Colombian people, it's just a government which stinks. But it's quite interesting. Colombia, the narco republic of Colombia, which is I heard in the last few days that they have, amongst other things, amongst all the crime, the drug dealing and stuff, they have like a huge opium epidemic, like half of the population are more, they're all on drugs. So it's quite interesting that Colombia, the narco republic of Colombia, they think they can import Venezuela into the Bolivian Republic of Venezuela. That's quite interesting. It's so. And then you may want to compare the picture coming out of Venezuela with people like well-fed, well-dressed, and free to protest, and supermarket. And supermarket and shop full of food and stuff, which is obviously to great concern to people like Donald Trump, Mike Pence, and John Bolton, and Elliot Abrams. They're very worried about the people. They're probably worried about the people in Venezuela because they not managed yet to transform Venezuela into some kind of Libya, in some kind of Yemen. So that's their concern. I mean. So they're very concerned about the people in Venezuela, which I think we are doing rather fine. Thank you very much. If you could, if the Bank of England could return 1.2 billion of our gold, if the U.S. government could return 2.3 billion of our gold, also 2.7 billion of assorted assets to us, we are doing rather well. If you return instead of stealing our assets, you are returning it to us, they probably will do even better. So that's what the Venezuelan people are saying. And then in the last 24 hours, there has been a huge rally in Venezuela of support for Maduro. Really a huge rally in Venezuela, millions of people in the streets supporting the government. So so they're very concerned about the well-fed, well-dressed people in Venezuela with all the shops, but they're not concerned about the carnage, the image of carnage coming out of Yemen, where they managed for starters, they completely destroyed. Yemen was one of the poorest countries in the world. They completely managed to destroy the infrastructure of the country because that's what they do. They're not telling you, but that's what they do. When they start bombing places like Libya or like Iraq or Yemen, they're not telling you, the public, but what they actually aim to do is to destroy the complete infrastructure. So they bomb hospitals, they bomb schools, police stations. They want to destroy everything, like power plants and sewage treatment facilities and dams, rivers, bridges. They destroy everything. So you see images coming out of Yemen, that the usual images we saw before from Libya, from Iraq, where what there was before cities, they just pile of rubble, And then you see all this image of starving women and children. I mean, And then you hear about the worst cholera epidemic in history. And then you hear that half of the population is dying of starvation. But apparently, people like Donald Trump and Mike Pence and John Bolton and Elliot Abrams, all this managed image of the destruction and carnage coming out of Yemen, for instance, or the brutality coming out of France, or to name one. That don't seem very concerned about. They're concerned about the people in Venezuela, which is doing rather well so far, and And if the US doesn't manage to destroy their country completely, like they did with the former Yugoslavia, with Ukraine, with they did a good job in Syria. Fortunately, they were stopped, and and Libya and Iraq, or to name just a few. So yeah, they do it rather well, and they will probably do even better if they all the country like this country, the United States, were to return up to possibly maybe 10 billion of worth of their assets, gold and different assets. So yeah, so that's all I suppose I want. So I think I find it quite. I must be honest with you. I found all the duplicity and the hypocrisy and the and the uh, going on around Venezuela. I find it quite infuriating, as you possibly may have noticed. But but if they can, like if they can have their own way, they will transform into Venezuela, into Libya or Ukraine or Iraq, country, Libya, now in Libya you don't have to, it's not like you have a civil war, like you have two different factions fighting each other. You have like 5 different governments in Libya. In Ukraine, what was once a fairly prosperous country now is basically, I mean, if you look at all the figures, price of food, unemployment is all gone through the roof. They met to completely destroy former Yugoslavia, which was a pretty civilized country where all the minority, they were religious activities, they were getting along quite well. They don't like that, So now you have like Kosovo, for instance, they have an unemployment rate of Kosovo. By the way, now they probably have the biggest U.S. military base in the world, and it's an unemployment rate, apart from sectors like drug dealing and prostitution, is probably close to 100%. So they would like to do all this stuff to Venezuela, and let's hope they're going to fail. And that's all I have to say for today then, and I hope people find at least some of the stuff I've been saying somewhat useful, and there is that's all for now.